Hi there, I'm Henry, and today we are going to have a look at the Tri Starlight V4 hybrid in-ear monitors. Now these have a hybrid setup. They cost $800 or $799 on Hifigo, and they have 4 electrostatic drivers for the higher frequencies. Then they have a balanced armature driver taking care of the mids, and a 10.4 millimeter dynamic driver which handles the bass. They are extremely exciting to listen to, a lot of fun, and at the same time they are a lot of fun which is presented in an extremely elegant way. So I enjoy them a lot. I'm not going to do an unboxing because the unboxing of these is kinda everything you would expect from an $800 in-ear monitor, but at the same time it's also nothing more. It doesn't surprise you in any of like these crazy ways. So let me just show you real quick. There on the big screen you can also see the box, and here it is in real life. So down here you have the tips. These are the foam tips, and it's literally the first time ever that I've enjoyed foam tips. So for me, you know, I just already had given up on foam tips. They never work for me. They're a hassle for me. Every time I try to use them, I don't get them right. But these ones are super good, and I got them right from like the first moment on, and they sound great, and they're just great to use. And then here's the driver unit. Of course, you don't see it on a larger scale. It's kind of transparent. You can see all the drivers. And you know, it feels good in the hand, but you know, if there's one piece of criticism that I would give to this, then for example, compared to the Kinera Nana, my very similar favorite IM, and then the build or the feel of the material could be improved a tiny bit, but I'm absolutely sure there's no problem with the build. It's definitely solid, it feels good, it looks great. And then of course there's the beautiful silver box, and this one it just feels really high class and well built, and just, you know, if you put your IMs in here, then you know this looks like a very fancy box. So but there's nothing else here. There's the wire, and there's a lot of extra ear tips in the box here as well. And so, you know, if you unbox it, then it's definitely, it feels like quality. It feels like you bought some flagship in-ear monitors, but at the same time, it doesn't blow you off your feet. But now, how do they sound? I'll start from them as a separate thing, and then I will definitely do a comparison with the Nana, the Kinera Nana as well. So the Starlight V4, let's start from the electrostatic drivers, because for me that's what really defines these in-ear monitors, and you know, this is the reason you should buy them for if you are into them in the first place. Having an electrostatic driver, or even having 4 electrostatic drivers, means you get some supreme stereo placement. There's a lot of dynamic range in the high frequencies, so instruments that are playing here, or instruments that are playing like to the left of you, or maybe to the back of you, you're gonna feel the difference. The positioning becomes extremely precise. And at the same time, you know, tracks can feel super narrow, like very narrow, like as if these earphones were, you know, some tracks can feel like the earphones themselves don't even have the ability to create like this wide stereo feel. And then you play something wide, and it's just like wide beyond imagination. So it's very precise about the stereo. And the moments I enjoy the most is that, you know, sometimes a huge part of the track, like all of the elements are like here in the center, they're in a very small and confined space. Like let's say the kick drum and the bass, and then some hi-hats and the drums, the beat is playing here like dead center. and then, you know, it feels like it's full volume, it feels like it's at its peak, like that's what the music is about. And suddenly like this huge sound appears, like from like, let's say, slightly to your right and above your head or something, or whatever the producer has done. But, you know, it sort of, I don't know, it just rocks you in a good way, and it's just, you see, I'm even a little bit speechless over here. Let's say like it's like, you know, the moon, right? We can't consider the moon a very wholesome thing, right? So let's say the track is the moon, and all you see in front of your eyes, let's say you have some VR goggles on, and all you see is the moon, and it's an absolutely beautiful moon. It's not lacking any nuances or anything. It's perfect as it is. And then all of a sudden, like without any warning, the sun just appears here like 100 times larger, and then disappears again, like woof, woof, and gone. And then the moon is doing its thing again, and then slowly it starts becoming wider and wider again, and then you get into this 3D kind of experience. Very, very exciting when it comes to those electrostatic drivers. I always imagine, like, you know, if I hear a dynamic driver, then I already imagine this kind of, like this speaker element, which a dynamic driver is. It's a very small speaker element. I feel as if it's like, you know, doing this thing is pushing air front to back, and that's sort of like this mechanical move that takes a lot of energy. But when I listen to electrostatic drivers, it feels as if, I don't know, like in science fiction movies, you have these orbs, you know, that have like sparkles of electricity going on around them. It's just like the orb is here, very solid, it's not moving anywhere. Or then these little, like, you know, there's like, I'm sure you've seen in movies or on like sci-fi stuff, like there's this cone, or I don't know the shape, and then just electricity sometimes appears between the two ends here. It feels as if there's just like some magical sparkle of electricity and energy that's making the sound. And it's kind of sci-fi, and it's kind of surreal, but it also feels very effortless. And then in another way, extremely natural. As if there are not sounds being created, but there are sounds emerging. And then the mid frequencies, again very clean, but slightly recessed for this headphone. So there's a slight V shape, and then there's the powerful bass on the bottom. The bass is indeed very powerful, but it's not the kind of like, you know, consumer grade cheap headphones that say extra bass, super bass, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. It's very much about quality, and it's very elegant and very pure. It definitely creates a very large kind of cushion around the music, or it gives an excellent bass to the music, like B-A-S-E, like the bottom or the bass. And complements the rest of the spectrum. It doesn't dominate in any way, and it doesn't ruin anything else. It's just very strong. It's doing its own thing, and very, very clean. So you understand that A, it's a pretty bass-heavy earphone, but B, it's the audiophile kind of bass heavy. That's, you know, straight away you understand that this earphone has been designed by someone who has an extreme amount of experience in like high-end audio. So it's done in a very, very stylish way. And it's a beautiful thing to listen to, you know, when the bass hits, it comes with this massive feeling of space and power, but never with the feeling of blasting in your ears, or it's sort of, I don't know, you know, usually when you have bass heavy earphones, then they're like hitting you, like if somebody is slapping you or hitting you in the face with a fist, they're just like, look at me, bass. But this bass is more like, you know, it's always like you want to admire it from afar, and it's like, it's always in this like admirable from afar position that you are the one who wants to reach out and touch it. But, you know, you never really can, because it's sound. So it's very inviting, and these earphones will make you want to explore more and more of music. Yes, thoroughly exciting is the word. And then the top end, I'm not talking much about the mid frequencies here because they are great, but they lack their own kind of character, which also is a good thing. They're very, very pure and they're doing their thing. No issues there, but at the same time there's no specifics to have this talk about. While at the same time I can say that the very pure mid-range is what also allows for this stereo accuracy that I was talking about before, and this moon and the sun effect. The top frequencies feel pretty airy. So now slowly we are coming to the comparison of the Tri Starlight V4 and the Kinera Nana 2.0. So they both have a very similar setup. They have electrostatic drivers. Nana has 2, Tri Starlight has 4, then a balanced armature in the middle. And then Nana has a smaller bass driver. The dynamic driver is, I think, 7 millimeters, while the Tri Starlight V4 has a 10.4 millimeter bass driver. But otherwise, let's say the technical idea between both of them is extremely similar. And sound-wise as well, they are extremely similar. So now I'm going to compare them, and my comparisons are gonna be pretty extreme. But keep in mind that they're still extremely similar earphones. And even though my comparisons sound extreme, then we're talking about very tiny differences here, that if you're not listening to them like back to back to back, like I was for a few hours right now, then you wouldn't even tell these differences. Overall, the Nana feels very tight and almost like to the level where everything is squeezed tight, like let's say this is the finger. I was like, oh, this is the finger, let's go with this one, then I'm more politically correct. This is the finger with the Starlight V4. Now, this is the finger with the Nana, there's a very specific, like something is holding onto it and keeping it controlled to these very confined spaces. I really enjoy the sound of the Nana because to me it sounds like everything has been recorded in the tightest possible studio ever, and the Nana is able to be extremely intimate. While at the same time the Starlight gives a more natural sound. I would say the Nana sort of like, it just squeezes out quite a bit of the space in the music, and it's very intimate and tight. And at the same time, the Starlight it's natural, but it adds a little percent to the spaciousness of music. It's just a tiny bit more than would be the actual perfect natural response. Probably you will never notice it, but definitely listening to music with the Starlights, then you it feels as if they're creating their own kind of, like the Nana is like a vacuum, and the Starlight sort of creates its own little space where everything else starts happening. And the Starlight is very good for any kind of music that's massive. That's like, I don't know, I was listening to Hans Zimmer, or it can be electronic or acoustic or whatever, but music that has a lot of this inherent power and mass, while the Nana more like feels like a very tight electronic, let's say deep house track with a very few well-controlled elements doing their thing. The amount of bass actually is surprisingly similar on both of the earphones. But again, the Starlight sort of, it creates this, let's say the Nana is like this, how do I put that? Like also on the bottom end, the Nana plays the bass notes. They're very fast, punchy, very specifically chosen, while the Starlight V4 definitely has more vibe, like more inherent, this kind of like, hey, this is me, I'm music, listen to me. and this drama and the size. And I generally prefer the Nana, but like I said, they're extremely similar. The Nana is $100 more expensive, so that might be something to choose, like which might make you choose one or the other. Now the Nana also has significantly improved stereo placement, or the stereo imaging. Now they're both already extremely good at that, so you won't be missing out either way, but the Nana has an even tighter back package over there. But you have to make a choice, do you like this massive sound and this large experience of music, or maybe like the chamber version, which is the Nana, where everything is tightened down a bit. A big plus with the Tri Starlight V4 is that, since it has this kind of bigger experience of mass and a bigger bass driver, and then it's much better when using them outdoors. I like to take my earphones for a walk, and the Nana at that point already becomes such a subtle experience, and it's all about these very subtle nuances, and it's extremely precise. But if a car is driving by, or even if it's windy outdoors, and then I'm gonna start turning it up, and I want it to be louder. And it never works like that, because I want more bass, then I make sure it's louder, but then the highs can hurt my ears, and then after 10 minutes my ears are tired, and I'll put them away. So the Nanas, for me, they don't work for outdoor use. I know they kinda do, but I mean, there's a huge difference of whether you're listening to them indoors or whether you're listening to them outdoors. Then the Tri Starlight V4 will give you an extremely similar experience of everything, like the whole music, but because it has a little bit of more power, then it just works way better in environments of any kind of noise. So if you like to take these earphones for a walk, even in a quiet forest, like for me, this is already enough to disturb the Nana experience. But being next to a street where cars are driving by does not kill the Starlight experience for me. So there's pluses and minuses to each of them. I think the Nana is still like very, very extremely balanced and the king of stereo precision. But the high frequencies on Nana can feel slightly recessed, and that's what gives it this very dark, intimate kind of sound where, the music is sort of like small, it's scaled down, but at the same time, it's so close to you that you can almost touch it. The Starlight does not do that. It has a little bit of less precision, but at the same time, it gives you this larger experience of music, while still being extremely precise. And that's sort of the comparison. I hope it will give you these answers. And now comes the final question. How amp dependent is the Starlight? And it's an important subject because it is extremely amp dependent. It needs a lot of power for you to drive it. I'm pretty sure if I had like this big headphone amp, I would get an even better sound out of it. But I prefer to use it with my Fiyo BTR5, a portable Bluetooth DAC amp. And when I compared the BTR5 and my phone, and then, with the phone, everything, you can go loud enough that like the volume is not a question at all, but it feels kind of mushy. The bass is kind of like, if you've never tried it with an amp, you might not get it at all, but if you've tried it with an amp, then with a phone, the bass will be like sort of out of control. The highs will feel as if they're distorted, or it feels like the entire package, like this entire earphone from a phone, it feels as if it's working super hard to get the music to you, and you feel the tension, and I don't know, it's just, if you go from a very rough perspective, it's still this earphone. But if you feel that this earphone is working hard and it's not allowed to relax and do its thing, then your experience of music actually becomes much more tense, or just unnatural is the word. But if you connect these to the VO BTR5 or any sort of other headphone amp, then the bass becomes tighter. The high ends at the same time, it also becomes tighter, more controlled, more dynamic. And due to everything becoming more dynamic, then the stereo will become more precise. The whole, like, you know, let's say this is the phone wide that you get from this earphone, then you connect the amplifier and you get this wide. And within this width, there's a much more precise, like, let's say this is the phone and you have like 8 positions in the middle. And then you get wider and suddenly there's like 40 positions in the middle. So I highly recommend getting an amp for these. They will sound a lot better, and you will enjoy them a lot more. So these extremely good in-ear monitors, I really recommend them, especially if you're the kind of person who likes a massive, large-scale sound. Even though they're in-ear monitors, they're very capable of doing that. And also, if you enjoy a lot of stereo precision, imaging, separation, and if you like the spaces in music. Now, I will give these as a gift to my girlfriend for her birthday. I am sure she will enjoy them a lot. And I hope you will get some of those for you as well. All right, you have a great day. Thanks for listening. Bye.